Yeah.
I am a heavy sleeper. Like literally, you can drop a computer and I won't wake up.
Yeah,
I love
Nate did see through an earthquake one time as well. So, hi, my name is Spencer Bullard,
And my name is Nate Sizemore, and I lived in Russell Hall.
and I lived in Russell Hall.
I messaged him, and I already talked to him like a tiny bit before. Like at first, we talked like personality questions, like "What do you like?" Blah blah blah. And then after we felt pretty comfortable, we asked like, "Hey, when do you stay up? When do you go to bed?" Stuff like that.
The things we asked was like, how late do you stay up? How heavy of a sleeper are you? What time do you go to what time do you go to bed? What time you wake up? Also, we went ahead and knocked out like, where do you want to live? Like, Nate was very open to anything because I really wanted to live in Russell, but he kind of wanted to live in Rutherford to begin with. And then I was like, I don't know if I can really afford Rutherford. And so he was like, okay, that's completely fine. Like, we'll do something else. So we already had like 3 backup plans in case like we weren't able to get scheduling right. So we had our like hierarchy. I don't know why I remember this so well, but our hierarchy was Russell, O House, and then Lipscomb. Nate had a really good sense of humor and like knew how to like he was very witty, and I really appreciate that because like I just like when people are witty and can understand my sense of humor. And so like by that, it's like okay, we're good. And then on top of that, like we talked about probably talked about movies a little bit and TV shows. And
Also, like besides like interest, like I could just like the way he was talking about how he would live, like he seemed very organized and like on my standard of how I live kind of too. So I didn't feel like there'd be any conflict with that.
for me personally, it was probably about 3 to 4 weeks to get like very, very extremely comfortable. Because it was just like I was still trying to find like the social balance as well. So I was trying to get involved with all these clubs and like do this. So I really wasn't in the room that often.
Honestly, I don't even think living in close quarters was the worst part for me. It was just getting used to college in general. Like, honestly, it was a little weird having to share with somebody at first, but after a week or two, I felt pretty fine with that. Like, I would just say the hardest part for me in general was like maybe homesickness, but that wasn't even just because of Spencer. It was just new place, new things. I got used to living in with really quick because we got along really well.
I would just go off the simple one and just be like fun. Like me and Nate would have times where it was just like I would come in sometimes and I'd just be like kind of down because the day just didn't turn out how I wanted to, or like schoolwork was just getting me down and I was stressed out. And then I'd walk in and Nate would be having a dance party, and it was like, but it was like it just like clicked on like a different like I'm like okay I'm good, like I'm good, like what's the point, like just live in the moment, dance for a few seconds, it doesn't matter, we can come back to it later.
If we didn't say fun, I would say flexible, maybe. That'd be a good word for that because we
yeah.
would
Yeah,
really were flexible with like literally anything.
I think it's a no.
I don't think we
I
had
don't
one.
Yeah, I don't think we ever fought. We mainly just compromised on a lot of things. Like we always just respected each other and like respected each other's space and time and things like that. And like, we never just kind of completely blew the other person off when they were like, hey, could you maybe like think about doing this?
I'm a very upfront person, so if I ever did have a gripe, it wasn't even like a gripe. It'd just be like, "Hey, can you put that away or something like that?" Like literally, it was resolved within like
Yeah.
5 seconds because we literally communicated.
Mhm.
I know some
Yeah.
Yeah.
people who have problems, and they're like, "I'm like, have you talked to them about it?" And they're like, "No." I'm like, "Well, there's your problem right there."
These people like don't know each other and they like don't know other people's mannerisms. So they're like, if you try to drop a hint, they might not pick up on that hint because they're not used to you giving hints. Like, so you have to be active in communication and be like, hey, I don't really enjoy this. I don't really like that you did this. And then people will just be like, oh, okay, no big deal. Like, you need to compromise with your roommate because I mean, it is a small space. Going in, I thought it'd be a lot harder than like what it was. Like if there was dust on the dresser, I grabbed the Swiffer and I dusted it off. Like it was not a big deal. We just kind of took that responsibility and just like did it independently. It wasn't like, oh well, like I dusted off the dresser this time, so chore chart. Nate does it next time. Like it wasn't like that. And I don't think there's really a need for that. I feel like you should be old enough now where you just kind of take your responsibility, kind of do it for yourself. And we just kind of did that. So there was no conflict with that at all. For snacks and stuff, like we just kind of kept to our own. Like if like I brought waters often, and then Nate would be like, "Hey, can I have one?" I'm like, "Sure, I don't care. Like whatever you want." Like Pop-Tarts and things like that. But like for the most part, like we kept everything kind of separate. Just like we didn't have like a giant snack pile or anything, just to like avoid like anything like people overeating or guests coming in or things like that would might like lead to a conflict. We just kind of just didn't you know share that one thing. Like we just kind of kept that separate. But as far as like if we wanted something of each other's, we'd just be like, "Hey, can I use that?"
Finding a roommate, I would say ask around people you know. Just like make sure people from your school, just in case there's anybody you might click with, or like check Instagram on those UGA accounts that people make that you submit a little bio about yourself and a picture, and you're like, "Hey, I'm looking for a roommate." I think that's a good way. Even though I didn't find a roommate through that, I know like a bunch of people who did, and they are like really good friends with their roommates. So that is a good thing, a good tool to use. And I would say the number one tool to use just to have a good relationship is communication. If you can't communicate, it's gonna be rough.
Yeah, and like the biggest thing too is like once you already have that roommate, or like if you're still looking for that roommate, it's gonna be okay. It's only a short amount of time. You're okay. If you hate them, it's okay. Like you only have to get through that short amount of time. And you all have RAs and things like that that can help you mediate conflict if you ever have those issues. So that's really nothing you should be really worried about. Like I've heard many success stories from like random roommates, and I've heard many like horror stories from it. But it's going to be okay in the end.